The market woman who could see the spirits of those not yet gone. She was not a prophet. She did not pray louder than other women. She did not wear white or carry a staff or speak in riddles. She was just a market woman. She sold tomatoes and peppers and palm oil in the open market of Nnewi. But there was something about her that made people whisper. Because Mama Chisom could see things others could not. Not ghosts, not demons, not the dead. She could see the living who were about to leave. And the terrible thing about this gift was that she never asked for it. She never wanted it. And no matter how many times she tried to ignore what she saw, the truth always found a way of proving her right. This is her story, and it will break your heart. Mama Chisom's real name was Adaeze Okonkwo. She was born in a small village near Nnewi, the third daughter of a poor farmer and a woman who sold firewood. She grew up knowing hunger. She knew what it felt like to go to bed without eating. She knew what it felt like to wear the same dress to school for 3 years until the color faded and the seams tore and her mother stitched it back together with thread that did not match. But Adaeze was not bitter. She was warm. She had a laugh that people said could heal a bad day. When she walked into a room, people felt better. When she spoke, her voice was soft and sure, like she always knew what to say and when to say it. She married Adaeze Okonkwo when she was 22. He was a carpenter, a quiet man with strong hands and a gentle heart. They were not rich, but they had each other. They had their children. And they had a stall in the big market where Adaeze sold peppers and tomatoes and whatever she could find to sell. People knew her. People loved her. They called her Mama Chisom because her first daughter, Chisom, was always with her in the market from the time she could walk, sitting on a small stool watching her mother walk. Life was hard, but it was theirs. Then one morning, everything changed. Adaeze was at her stall arranging tomatoes when a woman named Ngozi walked past. Ngozi was her neighbor, a healthy woman, strong woman, always laughing, always talking too loud, always borrowing things and forgetting to return them. Adaeze liked her very much. That morning, Adaeze looked up at Ngozi and saw something that stopped her breath. Around Ngozi, there was a light. Not sunlight, not reflection. Something else. Something quiet and soft and deeply, terribly wrong. Ngozi was smiling, waving, calling out greetings. But Adaeze could not speak. She could only stare. That light, that soft, fading light around Ngozi's body. She had never seen anything like it before. 3 days later, Ngozi collapsed in her kitchen. The doctor said it was a stroke. She was gone before evening. Adaeze told no one what she had seen. She convinced herself it was a coincidence, a trick of morning light, a moment of madness. She was tired, she told herself. She was overworked. It meant nothing. But then, it happened again. And again. And again. Every time she would see that light around a person, every time that person would die within days. Sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks, never longer. She tried to stop looking. She tried to keep her eyes down, focused on her tomatoes and her peppers and her customers. But the light had a way of finding her. It was like something was forcing her to see. She started to dread coming to the market. One afternoon, she saw the light around an old man named Papa Ikena. She knew him well. He was 70 years old, kind and sharp, always stopping at her store to argue about the price of tomatoes and then paying whatever she asked. She loved that man. And now she could see it. That soft, wrong light. She stood up from her stall. She walked to him. And without fully knowing what she was doing, she said, Papa Ikenna, please go and see the doctor. Today. Not tomorrow. Today. He laughed. Adaeze, what kind of trouble is this? I am fine. Do I look sick to you? Please, she said. Just go. He must have seen something in her face because his laughter stopped. He looked at her for a long moment. Then, shaking his head like she was a strange woman, he agreed. That evening, the doctor found a blood clot in his heart. He was operated on the next morning. The surgeon said if he had come even one more day later, he would not have survived. Papa Ikenna called her from the hospital. He was crying. His voice was shaking. Adaeze, he said, how did you know? How did you know? She did not have an answer. Word began to spread. Not because she told anyone, but because Papa Ikenna told everyone. He was an old man. He was grateful. He could not keep it to himself. And so the market began to change. People started looking at Adaeze differently. Some with gratitude, some with fear, some with suspicion. Women would walk past her store and watch her eyes. They wanted to know if she was looking at them. They wanted to know if they had that light around them. And yet, they were afraid to ask. One woman, a trader named Blessing, walked to her stall and said in a low voice, Adaeze, look at me. Tell me the truth. Am I going? Adaeze looked up. No light. Blessing was fine. You're not going anywhere, Adaeze said. Blessing burst into tears right there in the market. Tears of relief. She grabbed Adaeze's hand and squeezed it so tight. It hurt. But not everyone was relieved. There was a man named Chief Dike. He was rich, powerful. Everyone in the market owed him something. Money or favor or fear. He heard about Adaeze and he did not like what he heard. He sent his driver to bring her to his house. She stood in his big living room with her wrapper tied neatly and her hands clasped, and he sat in a large chair like a man who was used to people standing before him. So, you can see who is dying, he said. I see something, she said carefully. I do not fully understand it myself. Look at me, he said. She looked, and her chest fell. The light was there, soft and quiet and unmistakable. She looked away quickly. What did you see? His voice was hard, sharp. Nothing, she said. Do not lie to me, woman. She met his eyes. Go and see your doctor, sir, please. His face changed. The hardness cracked just for a moment. Just a flash of something underneath, something human and frightened. Then the hardness came back. Get out of my house, he said quietly. She left. 2 weeks later, Chief Dike had a massive heart attack in his office. He survived, but barely. He spent a month in a hospital in Lagos. When he came back, he came to her store. He did not bring a driver. He came alone. And he stood there, this big, powerful man, and he said, I am sorry I spoke to you that way. She nodded. I am glad you are still here, sir. He bought her entire tray of tomatoes that day, every single one at 3 times the price. But not all stories ended like that. There was a young man named Tobena. He was 24 years old. He was the only son of a widow who sold beans near Adaeze's store. His mother, Mama Tobena, was one of the hardest working women in the market. She had sacrificed everything for that boy. Everything. His school fees, his university, his business, everything came from her small bean store. One Tuesday morning, Tobena stopped by the market to greet his mother. He was laughing, talking about a business deal he was about to close. He was wearing new shoes. He looked happy. He stopped at Adaeze's store to buy tomatoes. She looked up. Her heart stopped. The light, it was there, around this young man, this 24-year-old boy with new shoes and a bright future and a mother who loved him more than her own life. Her hands began to shake. She wrapped his tomato slowly. She was trying to think. What could she say? How could she say it? He was young, he was healthy, he would not believe her. He would think she was mad. And if she said nothing, and she was right, she thought of his mother. She thought of that woman at her bean store every single morning, starting before sunrise, working until sunset, all for this boy. She made a decision. Tobena, she said quietly, "How are you feeling? Your health, I mean." He laughed. "Mama Chisom, I am fine. I am better than fine." "Have you seen a doctor recently?" He looked at her confused. "Why? Is something wrong?" She kept her face calm. "Just go and do a checkup. Full checkup. You young people, you think you are fine because you feel fine. Please go." He smiled, the way young people smile at older women they are fond of. "Okay, Mama Chisom, I will go." She watched him walk away. She prayed he would listen. He did not go that day. He went 3 days later, only because his mother begged him after Adaeze whispered to her privately. The test came back with something unexpected. A rare heart condition. One that showed no symptoms until it was too late. The doctor said it was a miracle they caught it. Tobena cried in the doctor's office. He called his mother and they both cried together. His mother came to Adaeze's store that evening after the market closed. She knelt down in front of her in the dirt. "Please get up," Adaeze said, uncomfortable. "Please." "You saved my soul," Mama Tobena said. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. "You saved my reason for living. How do I thank you? How?" Adaeze helped her up, held her hands, and felt the weight of everything she was carrying, this strange, unwanted gift that lived inside her. "Just take care of him," she said. "That is all." But the gift had a cost. Because seeing did not mean saving. That was the cruelest part. There were times when she saw the light and she tried. She warned. She begged. She went out of her way to reach people, to get through to them. And still, they did not make it. There was a woman named Ifeoma, young, beautiful, pregnant with her first child. Adaeze saw the light around her in the market one afternoon and felt sick to her stomach. She found a way to speak to her. She convinced her to go to the hospital. But by the time the doctors examined her, they discovered she had a severe pregnancy complication that had already gone too far. She lost the baby and almost lost her own life. She survived, but barely. Adaeze sat outside the hospital that night and cried alone. She had done everything she could, and it had not been enough. Why was she given this sight if she could not always stop what she saw? That question began to eat at her. She started sleeping badly. She was tired all the time. Emeka, her husband, would watch her at night, watch her staring at the ceiling, and he would ask what was wrong. And she could never fully explain it to him. How do you explain to the person you love that you are afraid to look at people? That every morning you go to the market wondering whose light you will see? That you are carrying the weight of lives you could not save? One night, Emeka held her close and said, "You cannot carry the whole world, Adaeze. You can only do what you can do." She wanted to believe him, but the world kept coming to her stop. By this time, people were coming from outside the market, not just neighbours.
People who had heard the stories, who had driven from other towns, they would find her stall and sit there and ask her to look at them. Some of them were desperate. A woman whose husband was sick, a father whose son had not been well, a young girl who had dreams that frightened her. They came and they sat and they asked. And Adaeze, who was just a market woman with tomatoes and peppers and tired eyes, would try to help. She never asked for money, never. She would look, she would tell the truth. If she saw the light, she would urge them to see a doctor immediately, to not wait, to not postpone. If she saw nothing, she would tell them that too. But some people, when she told them they had nothing to fear, did not believe her. They wanted the gift to confirm what they feared, not what was true. And some of them, when she told them about the light, refused to accept it. They would argue, they would call her a liar, they would go home in anger. And then days later, they would come back, or their families would come back to tell her she had been right. It was never easy. Then one morning, a morning she would never forget for the rest of her life, she came to her stall and began setting up her tomatoes. Her daughter Chisom was with her, as always. Chisom was 16 now. Smart girl, serious girl, always studying, even in the market. Her textbooks open on her lap. Adaeze looked at her daughter, and the world went cold. She looked again, blinked, pressed her hand to her chest. The light, it was around her daughter, her own child. Chisom looked up from her book. Mama, what is wrong? You are looking at me in a strange way. Adaeze could not speak. Her hands were shaking. Her vision was blurring. Everything around her, the noise of the market, the women calling out prices, the motorcycles on the road, all of it disappeared. There was only Chisom and that terrible, soft light. She sat down slowly. She breathed. She told herself to think. She told herself not to fall apart right here in the market. Nothing, my love, she managed to say. I am just tired. That night, she did not sleep at all. By morning, she had a plan. She took Chisom to the hospital herself. She did not explain. She said it was for a routine checkup. The doctors were thorough because Adaeze insisted. Because she asked for tests she had never asked for before. Because she sat in that doctor's office with her arms folded and her jaw tight and refused to leave until they had checked everything. The results came back. A tumor. Small, but in a dangerous place. Early stage. If they had found it a year later, it would have been too late. Adaeze stood in the hospital corridor and held herself together until she was sure Chisom could not see her. Then she walked to the bathroom, locked herself in and broke down completely. She sat on the floor of that hospital bathroom and cried in a way she had never cried in her life. She cried for all the times she had seen the light in others. She cried for the ones she could not save. She cried for the ones she had saved. And she cried for this moment, for her daughter, for the terrifying reality that the gift she had sometimes wished she could give back had just saved the most important person in her world. Chisom's treatment began immediately. It was hard. The months that followed were the hardest of Adaeze's life. She was at the hospital, she was at the market, she was up at night holding her daughter's hand. She lost weight, she was exhausted. But she did not break. She could not break. Chisom needed her home. And the Mecca was there. Every single day he was there. He held the family together. He cooked when Adaeze forgot to eat. He prayed when Adaeze was too tired to pray. He held Adaeze up when she felt herself falling. Months passed. Then one afternoon, the doctor sat across from them and said what Adaeze had been afraid to hope for. The tumor was gone. Chisom was in remission. Emeka grabbed Adaeze's hand so hard she felt it in her bones. Chisom was crying. The doctor was smiling. And Adaeze, for the first time in months, felt the weight lift. Just a little.
Just enough. On the way home from the hospital, Chisom was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Mama, tell me the truth. Is that why you brought me to the hospital that day? Did you see something?" Adaeze looked at her daughter.
This girl she had carried and raised and worried over for 16 years. "Yes," she said simply. Chisom was quiet again. Then she reached over and took her mother's hand. "Thank you," she whispered. That was all. It was enough. Life returned slowly to something that felt normal. Chisom went back to school, Emeka went back to his carpentry, and Adaeze went back to her stall in the market, back to her tomatoes and peppers and palm oil, back to the people who came to her. She stopped fearing the gift. She did not know exactly when the shift happened. It was gradual, like the sky changing from night to morning. She began to understand that the sight was not a curse. It was not punishment. It was responsibility. A heavy, painful, sometimes unbearable responsibility, but still a gift. Because sometimes, if you caught something early enough, you could change things. And sometimes changing even one life was worth all of it. She still saw the light sometimes. She still felt that coldness in her chest when it appeared around someone she cared about. But she no longer tried to look away from it. She faced it. She did what she could. And when she had done everything she could, she let it go. There are things in this world we cannot explain. There are gifts that come to ordinary people, not because they are special, but because they are needed. There are women sitting in markets right now, carrying things you cannot see, doing work you cannot imagine, holding up the world with quiet, tired hands. Adaeze Okonkwo was one of them. The market woman who could see the spirits of those not yet gone. She never asked for the gift, but she used it every time it came. And because of her, people who should have left too soon are still here today. Still breathing, still living, still carrying their own quiet gifts into the world. If someone in your life has ever pushed you to go to the doctor when you felt fine, if someone has ever looked at you a little too long with worried eyes and said, "Please take care of yourself," maybe, just maybe, they saw something you could not see. And maybe that love, that quiet, watching love, was the only thing that stood between you and goodbye. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone you love. And remember to take care of yourself, because someone out there is praying you stay.